What's up guys, this is Mental Milk here, and I'm new to this whole Setup Saturday thing, but I figured I'd do the first video on the setup I've gotten the most questions about, which, as some of you may know, is my room, right behind me here. As you can see, I got a bunch of boards on the wall, and some wheels, and I got the board rack over on the side there. So I figure I'll try to cover as much as I can here, and if you guys have any more questions about a specific setup, or something like that, then I can make another video later, but I figure I'll start with the big one and go from there. Figure I'll start things off with the board rack. So you can see it holds 5 completes, but if I take the off, you can see that it's pretty much just 2 pieces of wood and some dowels screwed into a wall. Really simple build. Just went to my local hardware store, grabbed some 1.5 by 1.5 inch by, I think they were 6 or 8 feet long pieces of wood. Cut them to length, which in my case was around 3.5 feet. And then used a drill press to put some 25-degree holes in for these 3/4 inch dowels. Cut the dowels to around 10 inches long, glued them in, stained the thing, and then drilled it into the wall. My 2 sections here are 16 inches apart because they do go directly into these studs in the wall. But you can put them at any width. I found that they're probably strong enough to be held on by wall anchors. You're not going to have too many issues, but I really felt safer putting mine on studs. Plus, I had studs more or less in the middle of my wall here, so it really works pretty well. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much into the setups in this video. I figure I'll just share how I actually got these things on the wall, and then I'll make videos for the actual setups later. And part of that is coming from the fact that this is the second time I've shot this video. The first time, you can actually see it on the screen behind me in Final Cut, but the final cut of the video ended up being over 30 minutes long, and I figured you guys probably didn't want to sit through something like that. So figured I'd reshoot it, get it to be a little better, a little shorter, a little more concise, and really focus on how I got things on the wall. So yeah, that's the board rack. It cost me less than 20 bucks. And really works well, and it's it's clean looking, it's professional, but it really isn't hard to do at all. So for those of you who want to do it, the hardest part of this was the drill press and getting it set up to do that 25-degree hole for the dowels. But after that, it was all pretty much just smooth sailing. But yeah, and the other nice thing with this one is that because it is a custom, if I wanted to put 7 decks on there, obviously I would have had to mount it a little lower, but I could just, I could have just cut this part of the wood longer and put 2 more dowels in, and it's a 7-deck board rack. Or you can go shorter, you can just do 3, or you can, do whatever you want, because it's a custom. It's a really nice thing to have, get your boards up off the ground or out of the garage and put them up on a wall where they look nicer and they look a lot neater. Next part of this build that I want to talk about is the wall behind me. There's really only 2 parts, the board rack and the wall, but I like to split it up. The decks, and I have those set up, and then the wheels. So the decks are on a rail that I got at my local hardware store. It's just a closet shelf mounting rail, like those wire shelves, and I mounted it upside down, so the hook side, so it's looking like this instead of the usual hook down. And then on each of the decks there's a little wire hanger. It's literally a coat hanger that I bent to shape, and it hooks right over that lip and holds them very securely in place. I'll grab one for you. So, I don't know how you can see that in the video. Try to keep it in focus here. But it's just a little coat hanger. Really nothing special. And it just has a little hook on it, so you can hook it right over the lip of that rail. Sits nice and pretty. And then the nice thing with those is that you can make them custom length, so you can have your your decks hang however high or low you want them to, and then obviously they are completely interchangeable between different decks. If I wanted to mount the other side instead of the GMAC, all I have to do is swap them out like normal, and then take the hook that's currently on the other side, put it in the mounting holes for the GMAC, hang up the GMAC, done. And now the GMAC's on the wall, the other side's over on the border rack, all set up and ready to go. But yeah, so that works really well. I'm actually really impressed with how that turned out. I know some people don't like the rail behind the decks. You know, they want it to be almost as if the decks are levitating on the wall and they don't want to see the mounting hardware. But I don't mind it because it's a lot cheaper than having to do individual mounts for each deck. And then on top of that, you can move it around. You know, if let's say I sell my Baby Killer or something like that, then I can adjust it so there's 7 decks on there, spaced out a little more evenly, and it doesn't look like there's an empty spot. So it really doesn't constrict you to having a specific mount for a specific deck. You know, it really works just for however you want to set it up. And then the other part is obviously the pegboard with the wheels and trucks and other gear on it. And like I said, it's just sections of pegboard. There's 5 sections of 16-inch square pegboards, just steel pegboards, 1/4-inch holes, pretty standard. Also picked that up at a hardware store. You know, none of this stuff was special ordered. It was all just drove down to my local Lowe's and grabbed it. And then there's just different kinds of hooks depending on what you want to put on there. You know, for the trucks, you have these dual hooks here. Again, hopefully these are in focus. And these just go on either side of the base plate, like so. There we go. And hang it up, looks nice and clean as you can tell, and they work really well. You know, you can get these for a couple bucks at like a, you know, whoops, you know, your little hardware store or a Harbor Freight or Tractor Supply Co. Maybe not a Tractor Supply, I'm not sure, but I know you can get them at Harbor Freight. And that right now has obviously 4 sets of trucks on it. You can always go more, you know, if you have 6 sets or if you only have 2 sets, you can always change it up because, you know, that's the best part of pegboard is it's all modular. You can move it all wherever you want it to be. And then the wheels, again, pretty simple, just these little hooks here. Get it off. Just a little L-shaped hook. Yeah, this side goes into the pegboard and then the wheel just hangs like that. That's all there is to it. Really, really simple build here. The only thing with these that I've noticed is that, as you can see, some of the wheels don't hang perfectly straight. That's just, you know, the pegboards are round, and there is a little bit of play in this peg here, so it can move around a little bit, but I find that usually they tend to hang pretty straight, and I don't have too much of an issue with it. And, you know, as much as this is so the stuff will look good, it's also so I can get to it easily, you know. I kind of based it off the Longboard Loft version, which has the bolts going through the bearings, which is cool looking, but I imagine they're a little bit harder to get off. You know, even if it is just a bolt that's sitting in a pegboard, you still have to take the bolt and the bearings out of the wheel if you want to use the wheel with something different. Versus these, you just grab it and go. And as far as other gear I have on here, I have my GoPro pole down here. That's just on some larger U-hooks. Got a skate tool, some wrenches, spare grip tape, screwdrivers, my bushing boxes, which these are held up, well, the smaller one is held up by the same hooks that the trucks are on. These are just little divider boxes filled with bushings. Pretty simple idea there, really. And then I have the larger one, which this one is on larger pegs. A little bit, you know, you can see they're longer and they have that extra support to them. Put that back. There we go. And then this is just my larger box. This one is for the tall bushings. They don't fit quite right in the smaller box, so I put them in here. I also have, you know, axle nuts, hardware, spacers, washers, and a bunch of bearings in here. Just, you know, it's a good way to keep all your hardware and accessories organized, but also, you know, on hand. You know, you don't have to put them on a shelf somewhere and hide them. You can have them right out where you need them, but you can still keep them pretty well organized. Yeah, and that's about all there is to it. I mean, I guess I didn't really go into how the pegboard's attached to the wall. It's pretty simple. Same thing with the rail. It's all just wall anchors. You know, you drill out the hole, put it in the wall anchor, and drill it into the anchor. It's not hard at all. I found that I didn't actually use the stud for either of these two. They just didn't have them line up quite right. But I also didn't really need to. As you can see, they're hanging just fine. It's not like the thing's falling over. So it ends up working really well even without a stud. You know, there's enough mounting holes to keep it firmly attached to the wall. So yeah, it worked really well. I really enjoyed it. It really wasn't a difficult build. You know, it's a little bit expensive in terms of this whole thing probably cost me maybe $100 to do. So you could get a new deck or you could set up all your gear. And for those of you who don't have a lot of gear, maybe this is, you know, a little excessive, but it also wouldn't cost you as much. You could do a shorter board rack, you could do less pegboards, you could do a shorter rail. So it is really customizable to how you want to do it, but it works really well for me. I like it. Obviously, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave them in a comment, or you can PM me. I don't really care. I'll put my username either on the description or on the video as an annotation or something like that. And then I will start going into these setups, hopefully with our own videos and some setup Saturdays later. But for the moment, I'm just talking about the broom stuff. So that's about it. Thank you for watching, guys, and well, and girls, everybody. Thank you for watching, everybody. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.